I've played it, and after you see this trailer, I think you're going to want to as well.
Yeah! I have a confession to make. I don't think I'm this modern audience I keep hearing about. So imagine you're cooking a dish for your family and everybody needs to be able to eat it, right? Including your grandma and baby niece and even that one cousin you've never met before. So would you cook your favorite curry? Or would you pick a safer option to make sure everybody likes it? Now imagine trying to cook for hundreds of thousands of people all at once, and they'd all have to like it. That would probably be a boring and flavorless dish. You couldn't really make it spicy because it needs to appeal to more people, and sure, it's probably fine to eat. But if you've had real good food, you know how bland and boring that dish really is, right? So I got to thinking, why is it when I see the word for modern audiences used in game marketing, my brain starts throwing up red flags at me? Modern audiences is a popular word that is used a lot nowadays. I just don't think it means people with modern gaming systems or anything like that. To me, it means they're simply trying to please as many people as possible, and it's probably more like bland fast food than a home-cooked meal. I just love good writing, really good writing. To me personally, allows me to escape into a different world. I don't want to be reminded of our own world over and over, especially when that world clearly isn't Earth. I'm also not afraid of flawed characters. In fact, characters not having flaws is probably proof of bad writing, in my opinion. Character development and questionable decisions are all things that make a character relatable and human. If I play a horror game, I'm also not afraid to be uncomfortable. I mean, that's the whole point of playing them, isn't it? So are some games just too afraid of just putting us in the game and letting us explore? Stardew Valley, for example, literally just throws you into the game after the intro cutscene with 2 whole instructions. The rest, you are left to figure it out all by yourself. There's tons of stuff you're gonna miss in your first playthrough, and it's just magical. I mean, how many of you are hooked on Stardew as well? So I prefer exploring freely over hand-holding and a map full of markers, yellow paint, screens covered in statistics. Sometimes atmosphere and story is best conveyed by letting players just play and experience the game. Many of us have limited funds, and more importantly, we have limited time in our days to play games. So games should respect our time and not string us along by not letting us play the game. You know, the truly unique thing about games as a media form as well as art form is the fact that we as players have direct input on what happens in the game. I really love to see games at least try to have their own style. I really don't always want it to be realistic. In fact, most of the time I actually don't. I'm not saying it never works, because it obviously does work, but sometimes using motion capture and just copying actors' faces seems like a way to skip over having to create your own unique art style and unique designs. And I think it loses some part of the handcrafted nature of what games could be. Sometimes it only takes a few frames of animation to convey so much emotion, simply through effective and artistic stylish designs. Like, games are movies. Games have the opportunity to show us something new and unique instead of using existing things, existing faces. So I think style and substance truly trumps graphical fidelity, and especially those with bland or even ugly character designs. And you know what? Those little pixel graphics sometimes stimulate the imagination more than photorealistic graphics do, and I really wish more devs embraced exaggeration over just normal and realistic. Similarly to films, sometimes unique effects or camera angles can change the feel of the entire game. It's similar to how films use camera angles to play with your emotions or play with the feeling of a scene. And the same goes for colors, so what happened to colors? Yeah, sometimes the game's color scheme suits the atmosphere of the game, but other times it's just there. And rent incoming, why do games use this weird yellow smog filter? I'm out here trying to escape the smog. Let's talk a little bit about pricing. Look, I decided as my New Year's resolution for last year that I would not be paying more than $60 for a game, especially if it's a pre-order. You know, $60 is a lot of money. I think it's perfectly acceptable to be very picky about where that money goes. You know, $60 could buy me like a solid 5 to 10 older games on Steam sale or maybe GOG, some of which are just absolute golden classics. As an example, I recently played the original Oblivion for the first time. I got it at like around $5. Yes, $5. It was on sale, and I got 100% drawn into the world. There's just something so special about finding an old gem for cheap and discovering like how incredible and timeless it is. And honestly, I'm really okay with not having something new to play all the time. Frankly, this constant hype can be a little exhausting, don't you think? And let's talk a little bit more about old games. I don't think they are necessarily janky or bad or even bad looking. Sure, some of them are, but some of them actually are more unique and their mechanics are more unique. There are plenty of those types of games to discover. So have you ever played an old game and realized it's still a masterpiece? Anyway, back to pricing, let's talk about microtransactions or in-app purchases, whatever you want to call them. Personally, the moment I see them, I'm out. You might know how it goes, right? You say, oh, I'll just try it out. I don't need to buy anything. But then the next moment you're drowning in pop-ups, limited time bundles, and fake currencies. If you've ever purchased a single thing from these types of game stores, you'll probably also know how hard it is to stick to only one purchase. You know, realizing that games are using psychological manipulation to get you to buy just made me like super cautious. And the worst thing is, the manipulation actually works, but you know, becoming aware of it and thinking about it is a healthy approach in my opinion. Personally, for me, if I buy something, I want it to be mine forever, and that includes like a subscription or a purchase. So if the game is fully online, that means it will not be yours once the servers shut down, will it? Here's a rant incoming. Maybe I'm alone in this, but it feels really absurd to me. How are we okay with consoles paywalling our own Wi-Fi connections that we already pay for? Anyway, even without these things, I think my standards have not become so low that a game simply not having microtransactions and being a complete game at a reasonable price makes it automatically worth buying. I've seen many people recently praising games just for that. But is that enough? When you're spending time and money on a product, I think it's very healthy to have higher standards. You know, releasing a game that isn't a buggy mess at a decent price should be like the bare minimum in my opinion. And sometimes they really feel like they're not designed with fun in mind, but rather how to keep the player busy for as long as possible.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
Sequels, remakes, reboots. Alright, look. I understand why IPs and franchises exist, and I understand why companies continue to use them. But for me, it's fine to just let a story end. End it on a high note, rather than have it die a slow, painful death. Maybe create something new, something fresh with a new name. You know, if it's good, it will speak for itself, right? I guess what it comes down to is that with limited time and resources, I'd like to make sure I spend my time playing games that I truly love. But recently, many newer games don't feel like a product of hard work and passion so much, but rather like a bland dish approved by committee to be as safe as possible. And remember, all of this is like my opinion, man. It's okay to enjoy things or not to enjoy things. After all, it's all subjective. But if you, like me, feel the same way, comment down below. Or if you disagree, drop a comment anyways. I love hearing everybody's respectful perspectives. Because if we don't fit the modern audience label, maybe that's a good thing? Maybe we're the passionate audience, the adventurous audience, the ones who just love games. What do you think? And as for me, I'm still on my quest to discover the classics, and there's a lot of treasures to be found. See you around!